Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a test. Not quite sure what we're going to waffle about or what I'm going to waffle about, but it's really just the beginning of, well, it's the beginning of doing videos for YouTube because I've threatened to do this for a long time in conjunction with, or rather moving over to this from doing the podcast recordings and the radio recordings and all of that. So that's really what this is. It's about seeing whether this will work and seeing what works and what doesn't work, what's right and what's wrong, and all of those things. So bear with it because I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of stuff that's wrong with it. But then again, if you know me, you'll know that I'm not too concerned about that. It's more about the ideas that go out there and what we get people to think about, really. So just bear with the bad stuff or the questionable stuff. And yeah, we'll improve it as we go along. I had a really interesting day. Well, the start of the day was really interesting. It started out with a discussion about communication and how effective, or rather how ineffective communication is on groups. As some of you would know, I belong to a good many groups on WhatsApp and Telegram, and most of those are to do with um, crime initiatives or crime fighting, as it were. Well, let's say security issues. And some of those groups are pretty serious. And one of the things that comes up quite often, and that's the bird in the background, excuse the parrot noises. One of the things that comes up quite often is the lax way, the comfortable way in which people become lazy with communicating accurately, and especially where security type things are concerned. This is an issue, and it was an interesting conversation because it highlighted all too easily how seriously some people take it and how unimportant other people think it is. I remember when I was very young, I remember my dad relating a bit of a fun story to me, a joke, um, about in World War One or Two or whenever it was, and a whole bunch of men in the trenches, and and the sergeant major says something to one of the troops about pass the message along down the line, and he tells him to send the message of send reinforcements, we're going to advance. I'm quite sure some of you might have even heard this. And anyway, by the end of the story, it gets down to the end of the line, and the bloke repeats it to the guy at the end, and it comes out as send 3 and 4pence. We're going to a dance. And while it's funny, it illustrates very clearly the way in which things can get screwed up, and then provide one with questionable results. And I see it all too often on all of these groups, whether they are security related or not, but most especially there. One can excuse it almost on the other groups because people just speak in a lazy manner, and they really don't try very hard. And you would all know what the abbreviations and the punctuation is like, and the questionable grammar. But I wonder if people give any thought to what that actually does in the long term, what that behavior will precipitate in the long run. Do people understand that when you request information and it is handled incorrectly, that you don't get the result potentially that you wanted to? Now, I've seen this on many occasions, and I'm quite sure many of you have seen the same thing in the past, on whether it's on online or on these groups or anything like that. But I found it very interesting, the discussion that I had, and the manner in which people become very defensive of their role in the whole thing. Subconsciously, I think they are well aware of their role in it and how guilty they are of not sending information out there. And then after the fact, of course, there's always this thing of plausible deniability, and ask for forgiveness rather than permission. That type of mindset. And I'm not sure that people understand the consequence of that. I don't know that people actually understand the degree to which it will affect the outcome in the long term. Yeah, anyway, I thought I'd just tell you about that. It was an interesting start to the day, and I might actually I think I might make a video just about that particular subject, because I think it's quite important, and people would do well to understand the value of it and their role in it that they play. Yeah. Anyway, so this is good enough for a test, I think, for the sound and the video, and we'll see how that looks. Yeah, and I think I should get a haircut. Been trying to get one of those for the last month. I'll put some effort into doing that. Although it is keeping the head warm at the moment, and with all the polar bears walking around outside, that's quite useful.